This is Sporting Life.
Well, welcome along to the Sporting Life Racing Podcast, looking ahead to the Cheltenham Festival, less than a week away now. Doing so in the company of Patrick Mullins, Ed Chamberlin, Graham Cunningham, David Johnson. There is a part 2 coming where we'll be joined by Matt Brocklebank and Billy Nash. Part 1, we'll look through the big yards, the big chances, the big talking points. We've got to start with Nicky Henderson, GC. You've cancelled your campaign against the statue being built at Cheltenham.
Suspended.
I've got another campaign now. It's a slightly different one. Ed Chamberlin, you've been banging on about this Constitution Hill forever, that he's the poster boy of the festival. Galopin would like a word, by the way. And I wonder, why is he constantly going on about this horse? And I realised, BAFTA. 2 years ago, you got the BAFTA when Constitution Hill won the championship.
You say what helps you, say.
You're clinging on, but, well.
Ed, for Nicky, after the
Built the statue already.
the holidays of last year, touch wood, this is wood, we're not in our office, it is genuine wood. It's been a plain, now we've lost to Gino, but in terms of his proof that this time round, it's been plain sailing. He's heading there in good nick.
Touch wood, absolutely. Deserves a change of luck. Not just to Gino, but others as well. And he was the missing ingredient last year. A lot of people say, why was that first couple of days just that little bit flat and it didn't quite feel like Cheltenham? And a big ingredient to that was no Hendo. And his horse is missing, and he's a vital ingredient. In Constitution Hill, this is no offence to Galopin. Galopin's a wonderful horse, and you know what Ireland thinks when you saw the reception he got at Leopardstown. But in this country, you see Galopin once a year. The public have taken Constitution Hill to their hearts. He's had the setbacks. The public do love Hendo, even though sometimes the criticism he gets within racing. There's one trainer who cannot get from the steppings to the paddock because he gets stopped everywhere. And that's Nicky Henderson. The public have taken to him. They've taken to Constitution Hill, and he is the most important horse next week for ITV, for the sport. And if he wins that champion hurdle, we're rocking and rolling.
There's a simple question, though. What do you think, Patrick? Is he as good as he used to be? What do you think?
The toys I've seen this year, he hasn't been as good as he used to be, but that's not to say that he can't be as good as he used to be. But from our point of view, there's hope that he's not, because if he is, it doesn't matter.
You rode in that Skybait Supreme, Patrick, which is monster time form figure came from. Riding, did it feel different? Did it feel?
It was just phenomenal. I mean, it's one of the most memorable races I've ridden in. Now, the ground that day was particularly quick. Remember, there was meant to be rain, it didn't come, they probably hadn't watered, and it ended up being a deluge the next day. But we jumped out, we had Dice Dino, who was a bit of a runaway. Jonbon, I was decided they weren't going to give him any rope, and Constitution Hill went with them, and they went just flat to the mat. I was on Kilcrutch, Jack Kenny was on Mighty Potter, I think, and half on the back straight, we're 20 lengths behind. But I'm thinking, I could win this because they can't keep going. So Dice Dino falls. We almost caught Jonbon, and Kilcrutch is a long way behind Jonbon, but I think we got people by 2 lengths. And Constitution Hill just got faster. I mean, it's just the most jaw-dropping performance I ever saw on a race course anyway.
David, what do the numbers say? But the time form example, how far has Constitution Hill been below his absolute peak this season?
Yeah, I think at Kempton, he was running to somewhere in the 160s. So that's about a stone below his very best. And then, I mean, he's a long way below that in the international. But that's not to say you couldn't have obviously run a lot higher if you'd have needed to.
You move the way to the camera, get back to that level, Ed, don't you?
Yeah, I do, yeah. I love that you put on Eds, the time for race. After the piece of work, Dick Emerson. That was hilarious. I mean, oh, yes. I thought it was brilliant. I'm a believer, GC. And the reason I'm a believer is because at Newbury, the days at Newbury, you know, Sugino, you know what I think of him, he's an aeroplane. And Constitution Hill that day was fat. He was. And you saw him in the paddock at Kempton on the 26th of December, and he was still early, really. Even I could tell, and all the horses look exactly the same to me, Patrick. Even I could tell. And the other day, I only watched it on telly, obviously, at Kempton. He looked like a machine again. He really did. And I've seen him work a couple of times. He looks like the old Constitution Hill. And I'd always say, Annie Power, Epic Taunt, if you get a mare getting £7 in a normal champion hurdle, they are deadly. They're absolutely deadly. And Lossiemouth and Brighter Days Ahead in a normal year, getting £7 would almost be unstoppable. But there's nothing normal about this guy.
If you think he's the horse he used to be, you're having a maximum bet.
I think he's a certainty, really. Yeah, I do. I think he's going to be a backable price as well.
Just to be clear, that is watered as well. That he is drinking water.
Brighter Days Ahead, I mean, I've always been a believer with Constitution Hill. I don't fancy Brighter Days Ahead. I know Ruby does. But to me, I find that performance of Leopardstown, there's something, I know it was wow, but something like I almost don't believe it. Stateland didn't turn up that day. And Johnny Mercer always said to me, good horses or great horses find a way to win. Why did she not win a very decent Mares Novice Hurdle? I know the pace was muddling, but top horses win races like that, don't they? And she couldn't beat Golden Age.
The slow pace. Patrick, my view on those two, State Man and Brighter Days Ahead, is why isn't the Morgiana a reasonably good reflection of where they are? And State Man hadn't had a run before that race, had he?
Well, yeah, we came out of the Morgana thinking we'll get her next time.
I thought so.
We felt we
I remember your quote.
haven't aged particularly well.
Yeah, so never stop doing that, though. That's it. It's good.
But we thought we got the front, we blew up, and she'd had a run. She went to go gallop. Now, of course, she set the race up differently the next day. She got the pacemaker so that she probably improved. Statement didn't turn up, so I don't think we learnt anything at Christmas. But if she runs the Chamberlin Herd with her pacemaker, it does make it fantastic viewing, because just from the word go, it's going to be on the knife edge. I wouldn't fancy sitting behind the pacemaker. He fairly he missed one or two down the back in the episode in Christmas. So it'd be a good setup for Constitution Hill. That strong gallop will suit him really well.
David, you have got that setup. You look at the monster time form figure that took him to the cusp of nightmares. It was that Sky Bet Supreme that he won, that he hit that number. This setup in the Champion Hurdle with King of Kingsfield, Brighter Days Ahead taking over, attacking early. It's the same setup really as that Supreme.
It is, and I think that's why the race is so good to look forward to, because you've got two horses that have both run big figures, and they're going to get the setup to allow them to do it again. So there shouldn't be any excuses, any hiding place for either of them. As long as they get there fit and well, we're going to find out which one really is the best now.
GT the Engraver, according to Edkinstat, putting on the Henderson statue, Constitution Hill dual champion hurdle winner. Can he start getting Jonbon on his list of champion chase winners, do you think?
I hope so. The top grade one horses, the one, forget the price, the one I'd really like to see win is Jonbon, because I think his CV deserves it. He missed last year because of the problems with Henderson's yard. He would have been second favourite probably behind El Fabiolo last year. But he's just never been better than he is right now. And this is the key question here. Some people think he's not particularly a Cheltenham horse. I can't buy that. I'm not mad about the price, but this looks to be his year, and I don't believe that he is unable to get up that Cheltenham.
So why is his record in Cheltenham so poor?
Jockey. I think Nico's transformed him. Has Nico ridden him in any of those defeats? He's won 2 out of 5 at Cheltenham. And
you could forgive the Supreme because he went to try and follow Constitution Hill, and he's obviously not quite as good as Constitution Hill.
What below form was he in the Arkle? He's just got that aberration in the... Was it?
you still talk...
well beaten there.
You still talk to Anthony.
He's beaten back 5 or 6.
You still talk to Anthony about Jonbon. He's the one horse that he'd love to ride again. And he will say to you that Nico's transformed. He talks about you'd know much more about this than me, the bit being high up in the mouth, making his mind up for him, forceful. And that's not Aidan Coleman or James Bowen's fault. They were finding out about the horse. He's a much more mature, easier horse now. But Nico's so important for him, being so positive on him. And they don't see Cheltenham as a problem at all.
I could see that with the Strower because he didn't jump, but I just thought the Arkle got beat fair and square. I don't remember any bad jump.
I remember being stood next to Anthony during that and him go, no, each fence, taking him back, being positive on him.
Interesting.
And that's not the JP way in many ways. And those were early days in his career. But watching the Arkle, I remember my pundit being very frustrated.
If he's going to be a bit below par, which horse can...
I'd love, and this is where Sky Bet deserve enormous credit, and Patrick, I'm sure you're appreciative of this as well. It's going to be a very emotive start to the meeting with a minute's applause for Michael O'Sullivan. Brilliant touch for Sky Bet to rename the Supreme. And if there's one horse I'd love to run well, Marine National in the champion chase. And I think he will on that ground.
Yeah.
We've discussed the ground with you because it's not going to be the ground that we often associate your yard with. It's going to be decent ground, and Marine National does float on it. And I think he's going to run a big race. I think.
Does he jump well enough?
That would be a doubt. I'm not sure he's good enough to beat Jonbon anyway. I'm massively in the Jonbon camp, but
Patrick, does Soles have to blaze next Wednesday if he's to show his best at Cheltenham?
Yeah, I think it's what about doing it at Christmas? He doubled down at DRF, and Danny actually went faster in the first half of the race, I think. Now, Marine National obviously closed the gap, but he's got, again, like the Chamberlin Hurdle, he's going to make it very interesting. But it probably helps Jonbon. It probably sets it up for Jonbon. And
They'll be very positive on Jonbon.
Yeah.
They'll be very positive. They won't let him get too far ahead, that's for sure.
Well, I think the setup will really suit Marine National. Because obviously Solness, you'd be pretty sure he's going to go out there and force it. And like you say, Jonbon, the way that you get the best out of him is being right up there. He's not going to take him on, but he's going to sit quite close to him, isn't he? I think.
Absolutely. And your gang, Ruby says the River Severn will have to be diverted for Nergamine to make it bottomless, and Gaelic Warrior.
Once bottomless. Well, the only thing I would say on the ground is I find when there's a constant dry forecast, that means they can water vocally, and actually what you get is perfectly nice ground. When you get quick ground, which is what happened today, Constitution Hill won the Supreme, is when there's rain due, it doesn't come, they haven't watered. So when it's constant dry, they water appropriately, and it's actually perfectly safe ground, which is always going to be good to Stockton Cheltenham. It's not. I don't see it being quick because it's dry forecast.
Very rare on the first day it will be quick, will it? Yeah.
Let's go around the table then. If not Jonbon, who I think me and David would both think Marine National. Yes.
Yeah, I think the way that the race is going to be run are really set up for him to put in a career best over
I remember this day last year. He was doing Captain Guinness, and I was depressing laughed. I said, "What's he talking about? Captain Guinness?"
Yeah, but that was before Jonbon was withdrawn and before El Fabiolo decided to stage well. It's been, that there is randomness, isn't there? There's real randomness. David, if not Jonbon?
I think Solus. I think if I was right, the big list, I think we've written him off on the bits of evidence in England, which is not compelling. But I think they're going to, he's one down and so they jump him up. If he gets jumping like he did at Leopard style, with Patrick visit that with them.
Do they have to ride him in lane 8, so to speak, which is what he's done at Leopardstown?
Is that not a Leopardstown ground thing? It's not the theory that, does that...
There does seem to be a slight preference to being wide in Leopardstown, but they probably do have to be wide on him, yeah.
Jonbon laughed at him in the stand the other day, didn't he?
But the different race, though,
They might be seconds.
I'm not sure that's equatable, because that was very heavy ground, and he nearly fell at the first.
Right-handed.
So he's out of... So to me, his race is over at the first, so I don't think that line of form is fair. But
if not Jonbon?
I think Jonbon to beat Marine National will be for me. I hope Jonbon wins. He's another big one for the week. And I've done a sort of sporting analogy for our ITV audience, if you like, of the greats that haven't won on the biggest stage of the lot. And I've got Steven Gerrard didn't win the Premier League. Dan Marino and Josh Allen haven't won a Super Bowl. Asafa Powell never won 100 metres. I need more greats that never won.
Who never won Wimbledon? There must be
Eisen Lendl.
Lendl, yeah, good show.
Great T-shirts. You win great T-shirts, didn't you?
Who's your winner?
Well, if not Jonbon, I think Solness. I just think Marine National doesn't quite jump quick enough, and unfortunately, I think the ground is going to be too good for our two horses. So.
Quick line before we move on from Nicky Henderson. Lulamba, you cashed out, Ed. You've cashed out, you haven't crossed about Lulamba. You're saying got no chance. Is that right? Sorry? Because she's got no chance, Lulamba. That's why you're actually.
It's going to be so painful. I have to say professional as the presenter, but my heart will go, oh. It's a good race. It's a good race. I think for once, the Brits are quite strong in this department in the Triumph. I know there's a lot of love for East India Dock, but I just think Lulamba might just have that extra special ingredient. I think could be very, very good.
The Henderson bags, I don't know if you're playing politics, GC. You hear that Palladium costs a lot of money, and he stopped saying there's not anything between the two, and he hasn't had a bet for years. I'll get you back, Palladium, if he's having a bet. I'm going to get the same sort of Sergino vibes around Lulamba coming up 7-0.
Can they know exactly what he is at the moment? He's only had 2 runs, one in France and an impressive success under a penalty at Ascot. I'm absolutely convinced that he's a pretty good horse, but I think there's one better in the race in East India Dock, and I like the fact that East India Dock he's battle-hardened from flats and jumps now, whereas Lulamba's still an immature horse in terms of race experience, David.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at what the Yard have done in the Triumph down the years, you can't help but respect his position, given that they obviously think he's up there with the kind of best horses that they've had. But I mean, I'm obviously mostly involved in the flat. Siding with him in the Triumph, it's like siding with a maiden winner in the Derby over the Dante winner. And you might get it right every now and again, but long term, you just won't, will you?
What about Palladium? He's a high-quality horse on the flat, and in theory, yes, for sure, and Derby too, wasn't he? Yeah. So he had to work pretty hard to win at Huntingdon, so it's a big step forward for him to make.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, absolutely.
The vibes I get, there's no comparison between the two. Yeah, there we go.
And the Irish juveniles, Patrick, Gavin's horse, the best of them on the evidence of August. So Helen Abraham on the evidence we've seen so far. Where do you think that's going to stack up?
Yeah, look, the juvenile races over here, there hasn't been any clear best. You would have said if you stopped the race at the last hurdle, you say Helen Abraham looks like he's going to go away and win well, and he hasn't quite. He's just kind of fell over the line. Now Leopardstown does have an incline on it, but not quite like Cheltenham. especially on the new course. So that would be a worry for me if I had our neighbour. For me, I'm not sure we have. I think the British definitely have.
It's unusual, isn't it, that we've been waiting for a really good juvenile to spring up from Ireland, and it's not happened yet.
No, and we've had plenty of bullets fired, but they look maybe just below top class. And we have a few first-time horses in there. Poneros, Papano, Larzak could be very good. He was second to a horse that won for Skelton's afterwards. But again, if you're, Billy Southern on Monday last year, if you're going straight to triumph, it is a very big ask.
Could get a point to East India Dock on day one. If Stencil, the horse who finished second to East India Dock on trials day, if he runs well or wins the Fred Winter, which is a very long new title now, then that's going to be a big pointer to East.
At the moment, who do you think will go off favourite? East India Dock, I think it's just...
Henderson's had a good week.
Yeah, it's hard to say without knowing what's happened Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, isn't it?
I think that we're going to talk Willie Mullins, Patrick Ed, or the Mullins team. We'll start with Galopin Des Champs. A third Gold Cup. Willie says that would be the pinnacle of his training career. How much are you looking forward to?
Sure, our whole season orbits around this race. The Triple World Cup winner is the ultimate. It's what we grew up talking about. Tom Draper, Pat Taff, Arkle. Ireland's had two of them. Coldrake in the 40s, Arkle in the 60s. I mean, that's black and white TV. That's the Beatles. That's, World War II. It's been a long time since we've had one. You guys have had Best Mate, but we didn't have it. So, it's the biggest moment of Willie's career, I would say. Alban Fote obviously had his shot and just come up short. But I think we're probably going with more confidence this time.
Is he a different horse for Alban Fote? I mean, Racing say he's a better horse than Alban Fote. Do you think is he more versatile in terms of the conditions he could face Galopin?
Yeah, look, I think his versatility is proven. He's won soft ground, good ground. He can make it. He can sit last. But he's so professional now. Paul can ride him whatever way he wants. The first year we had to drop him in to get him to settle. Where now he just bounces out. And if he ends up in front, great. If he ends up 4th or 5th, they're going a strong gallop, great. He settles, he jumps. He doesn't have to be ridden one way. And that's, from a jockey's point of view, it makes your life a lot easier.
He mass claim on time form ratings. But is this a race you're going to watch and hopefully savour?
Yeah, I think he's unopposable, really. And he has that fear factor with other jockeys and horses, doesn't he? Like you say about his versatility. How do you beat him? Because if you try and sit upside him, you just know he's going to outgallop you. But then if you drop behind him, you're giving him a head start, and he's just unbeatable as far as I'm concerned at Cheltenham.
He's got so much in his favour, mainly because of his own world-class ability, versatility. His jumping last couple of starts has been tremendous. But also, there's a couple who aren't there as well. Grey Dawning's not there. Jerry Colombe is injured. Ile Francais is...
Probably that horse has got closest to him all fees.
So he is the shortest price favourite.
I would take Banbridge very seriously.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, he's unexposed at the trip. I mean, it's not... He could be better at 3 miles than 3 miles too. He wasn't stopping at the end of a fast run 3 miles just because he's won over 2 miles. Quarter won over 2 miles. So I wouldn't just say it's a gimme either, no.
I love the history angle Patrick touched on. It just doesn't happen very often. I was out walking the dog the other day and thinking, I'm not working on Friday. Shall I go to Cheltenham, packed trains, heaving crowds? And then this thought hit me from nowhere. Mate, you might never see another triple Gold Cup winner. I didn't see Arkle. My dad used to rave about him. I did see Best Me. I don't want to miss this one.
And that's what strikes me. And you're now constitutionally all the place will live up to if he reclaims his title. And you're not convinced. I was at the DRF, and I know it's home ground for Galopin Des Champs. I've never seen the reception for eight horse like that afterwards. I think Cheltenham will erupt.
Yeah, well,
It's a third goal.
Of course it will. It'd be fantastic. And that's when you read all this stuff about people going to Benidorm and all this time. I mean, good luck. Good luck. Go and enjoy it, but nothing beats being there.
He's a spectacle, isn't he? He's a black shadow, he's lithe, and he's an athlete rather than a powerhouse, Patrick.
I mean, some of the jumps he's put in, the second last at the DRF and the last at Christmas. I mean, and the second last in the John Dirk. I don't know why he started doing it, but it's just, you don't see horses do that.
Yeah. There are going to be two I was there moments this year. One is Constitution Hill if he wins Champion Idol. The other is Galopin witnessing history. It'd be incredible. My point is he doesn't quite have the following in this country that Constitution Hill's got because our audience sees him once a year in the Gold Cup. But he's brilliant. It's just getting more interesting with the ground drying up, Banbridge in the race. It could still have a twist. Yeah. I know the way you're thinking could come into the equation, or I thought about a really eye-catching race at Leopardstown. And I still sense, with your dad, you read between the lines a bit. I think, fact or file, if it's up to your dad, would run in the Gold Cup. I think he should run in the Gold Cup. And it's such a shame if he doesn't run in the Gold Cup, but that's going to be JP's call. But I wouldn't rule it out. I wouldn't.
It's crazy to think that with a tiny bit of luck, he'd be going for a 5th festival win in a row, wouldn't he? Because he won the Martin Pipe.
But there you go. You need that bit of luck. And stray seagulls, they're apt.
Other end of the spectrum, Patrick, the Michael O'Sullivan Supreme Novices Hurdle, Kopeck De Mee, odds on now going in, big impression of the DMF, a horse you know really well. Is he the real deal?
Look, we think he's the real deal. I mean, look, did we think he'd win at DRF? Yes. Did we think he'd put in the performance he did? I mean, you couldn't foresee that. He obviously won first time out last year and blew us away there. He hadn't a great preparation, and we kind of thought he might blow up, and he destroyed a very good field. He was keen and didn't jump at Christmas. A few of our novices didn't jump very well at Christmas, and we don't really know what that was about. But obviously, he jumped much better the next day, but was still quite keen. So the little worry is he's going off 3 runs. He's quite raw still. We might put a hood on him possibly. But the question mark for me is just whether the occasion gets to him.
So what are your options there? Because at left, we barely saw him. He was gone down to post. He's going to come into that. There's going to be the applause for Michael. The place is going to be crackling early. What do you do from pre-parade into the paddock? What are your options?
Well, look, you have earplugs or a hood, and you just block out the noise, because he did get quite hot in Leopardstown. He just had to take the sheets off him, and he got quite hot. But it's funny. There are 2 ways of pulling. A horse can pull and be panicking, and they don't breathe, and they finish. Whereas the way he was pulling with Paul, he's just being a bit numb, and it's not actually affecting his breathing. And obviously, he was still able to finish the race very strongly. So you're hoping that he doesn't panic. He just is a bit numb. But obviously, Romeo Kulo is going to need a strong gallop, so that should help us. They shouldn't dawdle, because they can. Some people say the Supremes always run very strongly. It's not always. Sometimes, especially lately, there's going to be small fields. Ruby's dominate from the front a few times. But I think a strong gallop. But for me, it's going to be the 5 minutes before the race going to be the most important part for him.
Yeah, we're going to have to watch that very closely.
3 horses from Ireland that he hasn't met before. Work Ahead, William Money, Romeo Coolio. So they represent different strands of form. But David, 154 large speed time form, if he replicates that performance, he's going to be extremely hard to beat Kopek De Mee.
Absolutely, yeah. The kind of form that he's already run to is good enough to win what you call a typical Supreme. And now this might be a slightly better one, but I think that race at the DRF, it's got such a good list of past winners that have gone on to success at the festival, hasn't it? And he's got a lot going for him.
I'm attracted to Work Ahead. He's another one who could go forward, and it's hard for me to back a horse in a Grade 1 who's won a maiden hurdle, but he jumped superbly, Patrick, and the form of that race.
Can a 7-year-old win a Supreme?
I wouldn't hold that against him, but it's just, you want a price if you're going from a maiden hurdle to a Grade 1, but that form has worked out spectacularly, hasn't he?
It is. I mean, that maiden hurdle is traditionally very strong. That's Stephen's Day and Leopardstown. But it is a brave call from Henry to go straight there, but Henry gets Cheltenham right more often than not, so you'd have to take him very seriously. But as you say, it's an unknown rather than a...
And think of the step forward that Kopeck De Mee took, first start to second over hurdles.
I think Kopeck De Mee will drift on the day. I think because bookies are starting afresh, they'll be out to get him. They don't mind, Skybet don't mind the hot favourite winning there. Because you've got 27 races to get it back. And I think if he does get warm and on his toes, he'll drift again. He could be very backable.
No one would be surprised if WP Mullins won the Supreme. No one would be surprised if it's a son of no risk at all. Step forward, it's Alberto Mundi. What are you making here?
Look, we've never hidden our admiration for him. He works very well. I schooled him during the week. He jumped very well. He was in the Curragh on Tuesday, worked brilliantly, as always. He's obviously being the Cheltenham Triumph last year, ran keen, jumped pretty good. But the Moscow Flyer, his Skybet Moscow Flyer, wasn't what you wanted to see, really. I mean, the ability was there, but his racing efficiency was not fantastic.
In terms of natural ability, is there much between the two? Do you think they're both Grade 1?
They're slightly different. So it's hard. Stopping on Monday is a ball of energy. So you're sitting against him in the work, and when you just let go of your fingers, he just flies. Whereas Kopek at home is actually quite relaxed. So he's just, you need to give him a squeeze or a click. So they're hard. They haven't worked together. But they're different types of workhorses. Saturday on Monday is just there the minute you ask for him. Whereas Kopek is much more relaxed at home, a bit different in his races.
Probably a stupid question, but Is there a British horse with any sort of a chance in that race?
No. Let's say Tripoli Flyer on the Dovey. That goes, and he trials, doesn't he? And he's got a bit of speed, but I don't know. It would have been
Be a struggle.
yeah. I think the Presby Cup scoreboard, I don't think we'll be having more now.
Listen, we'll talk about poignancy. William Money in the same colours as Marine National. Michael O'Sullivan rode that horse 2 years ago. And he really clicked last time, Patrick, didn't he? He'd been sketchy in his jumping, but last time out he was impressive.
He was, but in a 5-runner race, a small field race, and he's a difficult ride. And again, a bit like I'm not sure. No, I know Barry says a strong gallop and they'll drop him in. It's very hard to drop in him, stream and win. I think it's going to be difficult for him. I don't really rate the race he won the last time, and he just looked a very difficult ride in big field races. His bumper form wouldn't quite put him where I think some of ours are.
Romeo, work ahead, Kopek. It's going to be quite fiery early on this, I think, isn't it?
It's a proper cracker, isn't it?
Yeah. Turner's final demand at the minute, 70-30, as we would call it, and got Ryan Reed still alive.
About to be out about that. If you could just work on Willie the winter.
In Ullaloo, the day we spoke to Willie for the column on the 27th limit, and you could sense was an excited. We thought this was it, but what he did at the DI, we were expecting that sort of level of performance during that.
Again, we thought he'd win, but to win like he did you can't really foresee that. The 2-6 race is probably usually a slightly weaker race than the 2 mile. But the whole thing with Final Demand is, unlike Kopek, he's so professional. You know, he settles, he lobs, he pops. Again, from a jockey's point of view, he's the easier ride of the two. And you can't, I know, 2-5, sometimes a 2-5 race can actually be turned into more of a sprint than the Supreme. They can often hack in it, and Denman got beaten it, and you have to run it. But I mean, he can late the running as well. So, I don't think he needs to go 3 miles.
No, I think he does. Take to this up.
I think he's got plenty of class. I mean, he's out of Zuska, who's a mare. I actually won on her at Leopardstown. And she had plenty of speed. And it goes back to Gay Brief and Gay Chance, doesn't it? So it's a fast pedigree.
Is he as big as he looks on screen? Because he looks a real unit.
He is. He's tall. He's maybe not quite as round as Kopek, but the two of them are, and Game Vince, the three of them, if you put them, that's what you're trying to buy, that type of horse, yeah.
The new Lion's the danger. JP's bought it. You can see why. I bet it's amazing it came on the market, and it's an exciting long-term prospect anyway.
Yes, I think the Spring Ground might suit him, and I haven't seen a novice hurdler with his accurate technique. He's like a cat. He's very precocious in that department, and I'm struggling to split these two, to be honest. I think Final Demand might have the slightly higher time form rating, and there was a bit of Denman about the way he rolled around the bend at Leopardstown, but as Patrick said, Denman was 10-11 in this race and ran to Nicanor on the day, so even the major stars can get beat in it.
Yeah, I think Final Demand's form is stronger. And I mean, we say every year, don't we, how bad a trial for this race the Shallow tends to be. And it doesn't look anything out of the ordinary, but visually, he couldn't have done any more, could he? And like you say, the speed he showed there, you would think that Spring Ground would really suit him.
You can easily see a scenario with Final Demand dead rolling off that bend in front. And Harry Skelton on the new line.
I'm sorry to touch him, but I think the new line's a certainty.
Yes, a lot.
There's a certainty. I think he's one of the bets of the week. I think no. It's definitely what I think in this race. This is the way I see it, Pat.
Are you sure that's water?
The way I see it is Final Demand's a Gold Cup horse down the track. He's a gorgeous, big, and on soft ground, heavy ground. I think this would be very different. But on spring ground, got a horse here. He's won a Grade 1. I know you won it on the bridle. You don't win Grade 1s on the bridle like he did. I think you've got a future Gold Cup horse against a future champion hurdle horse, and 2.5 in the turns. I know which one I'd want to be with. I think Final Demand is a beautiful horse for the future. I think we'll see him in Gold Cups. I think the new line I think he's that good.
There are a few maximum bets lined up already. We're only on the start of day 2.
I don't think Mr. Chamberlain's bought the some already just yet.
I think they're around in there. I really fancy the new lineup. I rated it. First on Lulamba, I felt.
Patrick, have you got any likely springers behind Final Demand for that race? Any dark ones?
Well, a couple entered in boat, and a couple of maiden hurdle horses that are completely unexposed, like Kiss Will, obviously won very well in Fairy House, White Tunis. And Funiculi is a beautiful horse. He's the cliche oil painting. Different than the other three I was talking about. He's much slimmer, much more French than the others. But, again, he won 70 next in Clonmel. We don't really know how good he is, but they're probably overpriced for the each way play anyway, yeah.
Good race. That's the interesting thinking about a lot of these races coming different ground to what some of these horses have been running on all winter. There's going to be a few lurkers that are going to improve 15, 20, 25 pounds for these different conditions, aren't they? And it's not easy to pick them out yet, but it's worth having a good look at them.
It's a broad question, but your novices, on average, would have had perhaps one fewer run than normal going into this year?
I think we were slightly slower getting going this year. It was very dry autumn, and we were a bit slower getting going. But I think the older Willie gets, the less he feels he has to run them. He's just happy keeping them at home and keeping them training and keeping them shiny.
Forward to after Cheltenham as well, isn't there?
And it's not like Cheltenham isn't the cup final because you've got Perry has Punchdown, Aintree and Ortoy, so you do have to leave a little bit up your sleeve. It's not like it's the end of the season, there is more to go. But just on the maiden hurdle horse, I remember when I was in 2007, I think, my friend were in Cheltenham, and my friend asked me about a horse, Ebezion, who'd won a maiden hurdle. And he says, "Well, I back, I like Ebezion, I'll back him." I says, "No, I don't even know why he's taking over here. He couldn't even be here." So it's not completely a new thing. Willie has done it, and Ebezion won it 33-1. Davy Conlon.
On a related point, this could be apocryphal. Has there ever been an incident when a horse has gone over in the battalion who wasn't even entered in a race? Because I heard one year that a horse rocked up and they got him in the stable and said, "Well, Henry, you brought this one and he's not even entered for anything."
Very possibly. It's definitely happened that one has been left behind and he brought over at late notice. But it does sound very Willie-esque, all right.
Partners are come to an end soon. We've got the producer flapping about the cut size. We're going to a few quick questions for you. You're in the office on the Sunday before Cheltenham. Willie's office is either on Marchborough or Ballyburn. Which one are you sticking your hand up for?
Oh, Ballyburn personally. I've ridden them, and I just schooling during the week as well. And Ballyburn for me, but yeah.
The bumper. There was a point where it wasn't clear after the DRF where you were thinking, "Oh goodness, where's my bumper like coming from?" Then two off the couch off the line. Did you know they were coming, and which way you're leaning at the moment?
No, I didn't know either of them were coming. Because Kopeck is a big brute of a horse, but he's a store horse, so he's been in the yard all season. But I remember riding his first bit of work and thinking, this is going to take a lot of work. But every week he's improved. It wasn't a mistake to send him to Navan. I wanted to send him to Navan because it's a long galloping track. I said, Punchdown, quite tight. You turn in 2 furlongs, run downhill. I didn't want to go to Punchdown with him. But if you keep watching me in Navan, every time I give him a slap on the shoulder, he just comes back in the bridle. He keeps finding, so he's a horse that's improving. And what I love about him is temperament. He only does the bare minimum. And that race, it's so important to have a horse that settles. I've ridden a horse in that race, Day of a Lifetime, Sicilian Secret, and other horses. And the race is over the time you pass the wind post the first time. Game Vintage is different because he won his point November. Only came to the yard in late November, early December. So he's not in the yard the full winter. And I'm not sure we've had a bump winner who's done that. Or a Shelton winner maybe. Doesn't mean it can't be done, but it is unusual. And we like to give our horses plenty of time. Gordon gets them out a bit quicker. We like to give horses time you're coming into a 200 horse yard. It's like going into a school. You're going to pick up little bugs. You're going to get sick. You're going to get a snotty nose. And then when we did a Game Vinches, he doesn't look fantastic. I don't know if he's on his own position, but he didn't look fantastic, but his bloods are right. He was scoping clean. He was eating. And then we worked him and we said, we want to get this fella out before the cut-off date. So look, he won 20 days before the Champion bumper. Cousin Vinny won 22 days, in Punchdown, the same bumper. Cousin Vinny got an extra day because the bumper got blown back a day that year. Fernie Hollow obviously did 18 or 19 days, but he'd ran twice in the year. So my only word with Game Vintage is it's an unusual preparation to come to the yard halfway through the season and have a quick run, quick backup. They weren't immediately obvious, either of them.
What about Aquaforce? You recruit. Went by a mile first time out.
Aquaforce, landed in the yard. Look, again, I mean, maybe it's a shot to nothing to run her. She's coming from a 5 or 6 horse yard into a 200 horse yard and then back her up. We wouldn't dream of doing it ordinarily. Maybe you take a chance because it's Cheltenham. I think it's a very big ask of a filly to to chop and change. I know Sir Gerhard did it, but he came from Gordon Elliott's 200 horse yard to our 200 horse yard, and he did it probably even later. It was 2 weeks. I just think like, we're not going to train her essentially. You know, we've got her for 3 weeks or something. So you're not going to have to, she's not going to rock up and run like a Willie Mullins horse. She might need to run like Willie Mullins horse, but I don't think we're going to improve her in 3 weeks. So it's a big ask.
If you have a chance of a big run on days 1 and 2, what would it be?
Oh, for me, if I could choose one to ride, it'd be Final Man because he's so easy to ride. And just that makes, as a jockey, that makes your life so difficult. With Kopek, I think he'll win, but there is going to be that 5 minutes of getting down to the start where you're just going to be, and maybe he'll be fine, because, maybe he'll experience, yeah. But it is a question mark.
If Willie offered you Man and Lossiemouth, which road do you be the champion?
I'd take either. More than happy to take either, yeah.
How's Lossiemouth been since that fall? Because we talked about it at the time, how you'd get her ready for Cheltenham. Is she schooled since? Have you been played with what in BC?
Niamh Roche rider all the time said she came out with better than she went into the race. Extraordinary, because it was a horrible fall, but she wasn't stiff, she wasn't sore. So she's schooled this week, and she did. Sorry, Paul schooled her and was very happy with her. Yeah, when was that? Monday, Tuesday. Done 4 hurdles, not a bother on her. So she is fine. I mean, again, she's had 2 chances against big boys. She got beat by Constitution Hill, then she fell against Stateman. For me, the mare's hurdle is kind of there, but
2 horses to beat in the Champion Hurdle. There's no horses to beat.
Well, 3 horses. Stateman, yeah. And at home, Stateman's the better horse. That doesn't always equate to the track, but
you've sown the seed of the mare's hurdle.
If it wasn't already. I don't know. Do you win a Champion Hurdle after getting a fall? I don't think you do.
You're between friends here, Patrick. Have you had a sit on a horse called Kopeck De Mee at home? I think his doggies had more highlighting Galopin Des Champs in the build-up to this year.
No, I haven't. I know what you guys think. I'm not sure. I think you should have to run. I don't think you can run off a French marking. I think it's not fair on the handicapper. I don't think it's impossible to do. And then the factors in Ireland and England is a different mark. I mean, I'm not sure the rules are right there, but Willie would vehemently disagree with me. But
I came across a quote. The perceived wisdom is that the handicapper just has to double times a French rate a kilogram. Grey North, Bradford Elvis, in a piece, said not necessarily so. Head of handicapping, BHA, Dominic Gardner-Hill, wrote in a BHA blog after a furore following the opening handicap mark given to stablemate O'Castle de Mort. We remember him, he hasn't won a race yet. He said that the BHA does have discretionary powers to stray from the standard conversion, £2 for every kilo, allotted by the French handicapper in certain situations where appropriate. So not for the first time in the BHA. It seems like the left hand doesn't know what the right hand's do.
But look, Gaelic Warrior got beat doing it, and O'Castle got beat. So it doesn't mean that he's fired in. Look, he works very well. Do we think he's better than his mark? We do, but it is obviously very hard to go there first time up and win a race like that. Petit Soin did it. Yeah, yeah. And I think I saw a stat was a 2 from 13 have done it at the festival or something. But look, he works well. But do we think he's better than his mark? Yes, but big ask.
If you've had a massive week, he's going to go 6 to 2
the bike, doesn't he? Final question, Patrick. We're going to let you go. Your own night. How's the book looking at? Which one are you most looking forward to at this stage?
Look, I'll ride one in the Geldings in the bumper. I can't ride Bambino Fever, and she will come into it. But I want to see, literally, Monday morning, I want to see them in the middle of the track and see, are they melting or are they cool, calm, relaxed? I think Copacabana will be cool, calm, relaxed. And Game Midgets probably will be as well, but you don't know. I've definitely seen horses on the Monday morning and just thought, well, you're going to be very difficult tomorrow on Wednesday. I think I get on Transmission in Ashton Chase. As James, did he appeal?
I think could be Thursday. I think.
Yes, it's all right. I think if James's man
would be a great ride for someone.
He's super ride, yeah. Got a great spin off him. And the marathon trip will really suit him. And the Kimure, possibly Sam Majest, and he could go National Chase as well if he goes there. 1 or 2 other possibles in the Kimure, but other than that, second and third strings in some of the pro races.
Your second and third strings are better than most people.
Well, thank you to Patrick and to Ed. They're going to be whisked away, replaced for part 2. And we'll be back very short. Billy Nash, Matt Brocklebank. Welcome back to part 2. As promised, the cast has changed. Billy Nash and Matt Brocklebank replacing Ed Chamberlin and Patrick Mullins. They didn't quite cut the mustard first part. They had to go, but we're sticking with the other guys. We're going to talk Gordon Elliott now, GC, another of the Irish superpowers. What's your overriding feeling of his team this time round?
I think it's strong, but the overriding point I'd like to make is Gordon's now king of the layaway brigade. He is very, very willing to put a horse away at Christmas or thereabouts and not run again till Cheltenham. Jerry Colombe is injured, of course. Brighter Days Ahead hasn't run since Christmas. Tearpoo hasn't run since, was it November or thereabouts? Woodoo, strong fancy for one of the handicaps, I think. The Wall Park, Romeo Coolio. The Yellow Play has run this year, but it was the 5th of January, so it still counts as a break. Galvin, fancied for the cross-country chase, hasn't run for a long while. And Calypso Chance won his listed bumper and hasn't been seen, I think, since November. So that patience has to be rewarded because the owners have been leaving a few quid on the bar in the last few months.
Now, the owners, the O'Learys, have been talked into or talked around, if you believe it, into running Brighter Days Ahead in the Unibet Champion Hurdle. Billy, were you surprised? Is it the right move?
Little bit surprised, yeah, especially with the forecast the way it is. I thought when the ground was drying out that maybe they would stick to plan A and run in the Mayor's Hurdle. Whether it's the right move or not, I suppose time will tell. But to be honest, yes, she has the race. I can't see her winning it. Even with King of Kingsfield in it, obviously we know what they're going to do. King of Kingsfield will try and set it up for her, but he'll probably just set it up for Constitution Hill, to be honest. Brighter Days Ahead has one piece of form which suggests she's a champion hurdle mare, and that's a very suspect piece of form, in my opinion. I'm still thinking of her getting beaten in the Mayor's Novice last year. I'm not sure she's improved enough to win a champion hurdle this year, so she adds to the race, but I don't think she'll win.
Billy, can you make sense of the difference in price between Brighter Days Ahead and State Man? Because the Morgiana Hurdle suggests that there's really not much between those two horses.
Very much thinking along the same lines as UGC. I think State Man is too big in the market the way it is at the moment. I think he'd have beaten her in the Morgiana, put a line through his run at Christmas. No, we're not sure he's as good a horse as he was last year, but at those prices I'd be willing to take a chance, yeah.
I disagree with you both. I really like Brighter Days Ahead. And I think what she did at Christmas, I think you massively underestimated her, to be honest. Time figure-wise, it was off the scale as well. She obviously gets the £7. You can see why they've decided to change their mind, because they're never going to have a better chance of winning.
I think David's touched on an interesting point. I think we'll hear a lot of people suggesting that Spring Ground might not be ideal for Brighter Days Ahead. She ran 3:45.
It was good ground at Christmas time.
3 minutes 45 round Leopardstown, winning by 30 lengths. So I was slightly concerned about her jumping technique. It's still a bit guessy at times, but I cannot have that Spring Ground will be a major problem for her.
Matt, you've got the Cassie Val, but you can make it 2-2. It's 2-1 at the minute, 4-1 with
No. Brighter Days Ahead, I would be against the debut. It was freakish. It was freakishly good. You've got to admit that. It was a bit freakish. It was Leopardstown. I think back at Cheltenham, Constitution Hill is very much the horse to beat. She's a bit too short for me. I'm with you guys. I don't see anything else bridging the gap there. So it's not like I'm drawn to State Man to back him each way. I think Constitution Hill, if he drifts again, he's going to get 4 to 5 maybe, do you think? Is that the sort of price?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, I think there'll be plenty of people willing to take that. I'd be a big backer at even money.
Let's look at some of the other Elliott runners. Tearpoo Billy in the stayers. I mean, GC's, but the tuck away team. I mean, we've only seen him once in a jogging alongside Lossiemouth a bit, the Hatton's Grace. Where are you going at?
Well, I certainly wouldn't be backing him at the price he is at the moment. That is one of the reasons why not. We hadn't seen him since the Hatton's Grace, which obviously they did last year as well. It worked out well for them. But he was, there's only an okay run, being beaten by Lossiemouth. Yes, the race didn't suit him. But at the same time, I thought he won a weak Stayers Hurdle last year. His record on quickish ground isn't great. Now, he did win at Punchestown last year, but when you look at the horses he beat to win that Stayers Hurdle at Punchestown, he beat Asterion Forlange and, Buddy won in these horses. Like I said, it wasn't a strong division last year. It's possibly a little bit stronger this year. At least he'll have different opposition. He'll have the likes of Lucky Place, Rocky's Diamond, a couple more, hopefully the Wall Park. Whether he'll turn up or not, I don't know.
By the way, an old rival.
An old rival, again, I'd much prefer to see soft ground for him. I think he's a bit of a mudlark. I think he's a proper stayer. If it was 3.5 miles, he'd have a great chance. But just at the prices, I couldn't have to you, but I'd be happy to take him.
Okay, do you think Gordon will run the Wall Park against him? And if he does, is he a possible danger?
I hope he does. I think he definitely deserves to take his chance in the race. And if he was in any other yard, I think that's the race they'd run him in. But he's Gordon and JP, so don't be surprised if he turns up in the Pertemps final.
His form from the Pertemps qualifier that he won has worked out particularly well. I think it must be really weighing up whether to have a crack at the Grade 1 with him, because obviously JP McManus, who, let's be honest, is key when it comes to mapping out a lot of these races we're talking about, certainly in the handicaps. The Walpat's going to have top weight if he runs in the final of the handicap. I think he did enough at Ascot, staying on that day, eye-catching run on a track that possibly didn't quite have the race run to suit. I think, personally, looking at that, if he were mine, I'd have seen that. He's banging the mix in a Stayers hurdle. Tippy, we've seen him once this season and he was below par. Can you back him at odds on?
If you were the owner, though, of the Wool Park, who's your JP or Frank Berry, you'd be saying to Gordon, is he in the same league as Tiapu? Could he give... You'd have to ask that question, wouldn't you?
But I do think drawing ground will suit the Wall Park. It won't suit Tehupo. But like the Wall Park was doing his winning during the summer last year, he won like all the way in.
And through the ranks.
It's the thing with Tiapu, isn't it? You look at, we're not short of short price favourites there this week. There's going to be a fair few that have got more in their favour than what he has, isn't there? So
I would think so, yeah.
The Wall Park's got, admittedly at a lower level, but he's got a powerful finish, hasn't he? Really?
He stays really well.
It's that time of year, Jeezy, where your phone buzzers with the whispers, the buzzers that are coming out. And all of a sudden, Lucky Place is one that's simmering away on the forecast ground. The Henderson team, the vibes coming out of there right now. We're giving him a bigger chance than the market suggested. Might not suggest the case now.
He's up in class. He's only rated in the 150s, but that puts him in the top 4. And he seems to be progressing. And he was giving Gower Road £6 in the Relkeel, so he should definitely confirm that for him.
Is this not a character thing as well, do you not think? Because look at the makeup of this race. It is full of rogues, absolute characters, horses that are failed chases, horses that run like this one day and downhill. Look at this horse. Lucky Place is solid. Henderson spoke about him so fondly, knows he's going to turn up, knows he's going to show up. And they weren't willing to risk him over in the Cleeve hurdles, just stepping him up to 3 mile. They're perfectly happy to give it a go. Nicky de Boinville said he reckons he'll stay. That was enough for Nicky, and he's put him away for it. I think he's a place contender, isn't he? But again, is he one that really lights your fire? I'm not sure.
Forget the market for a minute. It's a massive down with this sort of thing when you see a Tiapu running once before the festival last year and again this time. If that is seen to succeed, we're only going to get more of it, I'm afraid.
That's where we've gone. There's Yellow Clay, Billy, player. We're thinking Albert Barla, are we? We're not quite sure where.
I've said it all year. I hope it's the Albert Bartlett, and I think with the drawing ground, they might be swayed that way. Now, interestingly, I saw Jack Kennedy interviewed at Leopardstown on Monday, and he was trying to tell us all that this horse is really quick. He has loads of gears. Personally, I haven't seen it on the track. He looks a proper stayer to me. He nearly got caught out in a tactically run race at Navan, but stayed on really well. And again, they went quite hard, I thought, in the Lawlers of Naas on softish ground, and he grounded out. He stayed really well. So I'd love to see him go 3 miles for the Albert Bartlett. I think he'd take a lot of beating in that. I think he'd be vulnerable in the turners on goodish ground.
Go on, if you were going to have one Gordon horse at the festival this year, Billy Nash, what would you do?
But I'm going to give you one at a bigger price. I might buy 2, but I'm going to give you one at a big price that I think will run well in the Fred Winter horse called Windrock. I think his form is really solid. He was third to total look first time out. He beat Galileo Dame, nearly a bit lucky, but he still beat her at Christmas and ran much better than finishing position suggests at the DRF. I think of all the Irish horses in the Fred Winter, he's possibly the best treated. He certainly looks on a fair mark, and Gordon's got a great record in this race. So 16-1 each way, I'll be on him.
On that Fred Winter subject, I was having a look at the Irish Challenge and the Timeform marks. I think the lads at Timeform are after going to do a bit of creative accounting in order for those horses not to look badly handicapped on the race card. Is that correct?
Yeah,
Well, Cromwell's have all gone up 6 or 7, haven't they? I think he's got 2 or 3 in the race.
The BHA have used their discretionary powers, I think, on some of those Irish horses.
You saw the ones done the big.
Okay, can I have a Gordon horse to mention? Touch Me Not, I thought, was a novice chaser, interesting one. A young horse, Gigginsdown horse, who is a work in progress, I think, but interesting how he's run behind Load of Sud, obviously, this season. And then he was second to Majborough last time out. Now, his form, I'm really hoping that off a mark of 151, he's going to run in the Grand Annual, hopefully. And that's obviously on the Wednesday. If those two have obviously, fought out the finish of an Arkle, which looks highly likely on the day one. Then his one could look really good. He's a double kicker price for the Grand Daniel.
I mentioned 2 Gordon horses. One's a guess because the bumper is so full of unknown quantities. But Calypso Chance looked a really promising horse before Christmas. I like his head carriage. He looks like he wants it. But the one, I think she's got a lot of ones against the name, but I'm sure that Wadu is still potentially well treated. I don't know whether it would be Coral Cup or Martin Pipe, but her Cheltenham form from before Christmas has worked out really strongly.
Seriously, I was chatting to Matty Avis, the BHA handicapper. That was the second horse who gave him a headache. Kopeck De Mee was the first. He said he just times that by 2. He said, with the way that form's working out, he could have done anything. He didn't know how high he could have gone. So, yeah, really interesting. David, you're all in on Brighty Days Ahead, are you?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
State. No, just on Billy Easley. GC, we're going to talk Dan Skelton now. One thing that strikes, we've touched upon in part 1, the new Lion. This is a potentially huge horse for him. If we talk about Henderson, you talk about Jonbon, you talk about the owners, it's the Donnellys, it's JP who are giving him these A-listers. JP's bought this, it stays with Dan. This is potentially his route to the top.
Yeah, he's had a couple of other JP horses before, but none with this sort of potential. And did Dan Skelton have 4 winners at last year's festival? He certainly had a great ride.
And 2
Yeah, so he had a tremendous week and he's going there really strong again. We touched on the new Lion in previous conversation. He jumps like a cat, but Loda Sud also is a very good jumper. And I think I'm in a minority in thinking that he can give Madgeborough a right shake in the Arkle. Nothing against Madgeborough, he's a formidable young talent, but you'll see tons of previews in the next few days and the last few days where people say, I can't possibly oppose him. But very few of those people are going to have a 700 to win 4. Or even a 70 to win 40. There's a difference between saying he's a star and saying I'm going to take 7-4 on in a Cheltenham Grade 1 novice chase. And I think Loda Sud has got the form, the jumping technique, and the fact that he's seasoned. I would have those two appreciably closer in the market. So I think the Skeltons might have a decent first day.
Matt, he's back with a previous win as well. Langadan, lit up by the Guinness Village, is the final two that we're clinging to with Langadan. Looks like this day is for him. We've got Protector out back in the Ryanair as well.
Yeah, and Unexpected Party back as well with a winner last year. In the Grand Daniel. I have just talked about another Brendan Fletch horse, but I suppose if it rains, then he's going to come into it. He's only 5 or 6 pounds higher than last year. Protector is a good chance again, isn't he? A proper player in the Ryanair chase. I do like him when he gets his own way a little bit. I know he didn't lead completely from fly fall last year in the Ryanair chase, but he was up there. He's going to have some pace burners up with him. Yeah, the likes of Ville Francais up with him this season. I was just wondering if he might. I think it's a stronger race. I think it's a better Ryanair chase. But yeah, hopefully another good season, another good festival for Dan Skelton. I do think he might, seal his title. His first of many 6 or 8 titles to come in a row over there.
There we are. That's contractual. That's in the clippings. David, we'll stop James Owen quickly. We've talked about East India Doc. He's got other bullets to fire. It looked like when you look at the British trainers, we're talking Henderson, we're talking Skelton, we're talking Nichols. You're looking for next cabs off the van. There's Harry Devon bubbling away. Oh, he might be on that sort of trajectory as well in a few years' time.
Yeah, he certainly looks that way, doesn't he? I think certainly a couple of years ago he was training Hunter Chasers and he's just sort of really coming through the ranks. He's getting plenty of support from the Gresleys, isn't he? I think he's training Ambiente Friendly as well now, isn't he? And yeah, I think what East India Doc has done, he's a better horse than what Burdett Road was this time last year. And the standard that he sets in the Triumph is there for them all to have to go and come up to the level that he's already got to, I think.
Can I interject and ask the 2 blocks opposite, can we have a little Cromwell segment? Because Gavin Cromwell has a pretty potent team for next week, doesn't he?
He has a really strong team, I think, yeah. I think Matthew posed the question yesterday, could he win all the handicaps?
Well, this is a bit, facetious.
With the Ultra, surely, because that would happen.
We never win the Ultra.
We don't give
We blew the Ultra.
I don't know about that. You've got Melina Girl. She's won at the course before, hasn't she? Early last season, and then was going to probably follow up when she took that heavy fall. Anyway, she had a much quieter season this time around, and back on a reasonable mark. She finished second at Exeter just at a week in the mares chase that she finished second in as well last year. She's got a chance. I actually like one of his in the Fred Winter at a bigger price. I know he's got 2. One's fairly well fancied. One's 25 to 1. Robbie's Rock. He ran at Galway. I thought that was it's such a great educational track, isn't it, Galway, when it comes to running them in handicaps. And then he won educational, and then he was he's older, established horses in a normal handicap
As a 3-year-old.
as a youngster. And then last time out, the race was a smaller field. He ran, how would Ollie Bell say it? He ran it back to front. You know, he was a bit too keen, and the front runners just got away from him, and he didn't have much left. But I think you can scrap that run. He's got a big chance at 25.
Clip this up for when it backfires on me, but Billy, juvenile hurdlers in Ireland have looked a pretty plain bunch. Hello Neighbour for Cromwell is just about the best.
Just about, yeah. Like you said, they're kind of much of a muchness from what we've seen. Hello Neighbour is the best of them, and he's a hard horse to get a handle on because you won't do on the flat and 2 over hurdles, and not very far on any occasion. He just looks like a horse that does enough. So he might improve. But it's staying on the Cromwell team. He has a very strong team. Now the hour has been well touted for the National Hunt Chase.
You said he shouldn't be given a mark, didn't Billy? Didn't you write tonight?
I didn't say that.
Oh, sorry.
I did not say that. It was mentioned, but not by me.
Didn't you win a grade 2 last year about the 17th?
Yes,
He did.
Deep ground seems handy film. Have Stumptown, Vanilla, or both in the cross-country chase for Cromwell?
Neither, actually.
All right.
I think Galvin will win the cross-country chase. I think he should be favoured for it. Stumptown obviously has a great chance, but I think he's very high in the weights. Cromwell horse I do like for the week that I think will win is 6.5 in the Mayor's Novice. I think she's very good.
It's a good flat horse and really impressive. Is there any truth in the rumour that I'm starting that Gavin Cromwell has asked Paul Carberry to come out of retirement and place my mate Mozzie's head in front in the Grand Annual 3 inches from the line?
He might get his brand. Well, he's got others in that race, hasn't he, as well? King of VRS, that was impressive in the Dan and Joan Moore Memorial.
Midnight it is, who, if he hadn't run at Leopardstown, would be nearly favoured. And he was actually coughing at Leopardstown, so at about 20-1, you could do worse than
He's going to snag a winner of Cromwell.
I'd be surprised if he doesn't.
So Joseph, good week potentially for Joseph O'Brien, just via that race, Hello Neighbour. He's got a juvenile filly, Galileo Dane. She could potentially run in the Mayor's Novice, could she?
She could.
The Lilla Bynes have been...
She was just behind Hello Neighbour in the Grade 1.
She was second to Hamish on the flats, I believe, in the autumn, and not many of them would be able to do that in terms of raw class. She was rated 90 odd on the flat.
Banbridge, Billy, for Joseph.
Don't think he'll stay, to be honest. No, I think 3-2. 3-2 at Cheltenham is vastly removed from 3 miles of Kempton. And 3 miles of Kempton is perfect for him. Flat track, and they went really quick. The leaders are coming back to him. It's going to be a different story at Cheltenham. Galopin Des Champs might go quick, but he won't be coming back. And I don't think the Banbridge will get up the hill.
Should go back to Cromwell. I was amazed by a stat I picked up on one of my many media trips out of the festival. That taking out the festival last year, he trained more winners at Cheltenham than any other trainer. For the rest of the season, taking out the festival, he had more winners at Cheltenham than anybody in 2023.
It's become a clever plot for the Irish trainers to come over earlier in the season, show the hand a little bit, even win a race. It just means that the British handicappers have them on a mark. And then when it comes around to festival, weights, lunch, they're unable to ship them up.
They can. Now you're
Didn't work with all the locum.
Is the speculator, is there any chance that I know the way you're thinking will suddenly launch his way back into the Gold Cup picture on Saturday or Sunday with a supplementary entry?
There was no chance he was going to turn up in the Grand National entries. And, so stranger things have happened, but I'd be surprised.
If he did, where would you think he'd finish in the Gold Cup?
He'd have place prospects. It's going to be a small field Gold Cup. I don't think there'll be that many in it.
You really have to put in a...
I was imagining that.
If they did run him in it,
defeat out of the question, Joe, wasn't it, that one? Going to go around the table. Time we're going to be just... What's the thing, GC, you're most looking forward to at the festival? What's going to be your...
the enormous amount of things. I'd love to see Sean Bowen ride a winner. I think his talents deserve it. Etiqueur on day one would be a great slot for him. But nothing too much behind the opposite. I don't know why. I'd love to see Jonbon win the champion chase because he's been a byword for consistency. Any number of things with all sorts of random elements sneaking. Selfishly, I think from a punter's point of view, you love to get off. I'm a good front runner as a punter, and I'm not very good trying to get it back if I don't start well. So hopefully day one, Lotus Suit and Stencil would get me rocking and rolling.
David, I think I know where this is going.
Yeah, it's the putter for shutter for the champion hurdle, isn't it? We just want to see them both there, and no excuses for either.
Matt? What's your
I wasn't frightened sort from David. I like it. It's come out swinging. Two
Standard Nichols Skelton showing that's off for 2 episodes of the Uncles?
yeah, no winners for Nichols. No, general themes. I think it's going to be a good week for French horses. There aren't many coming, but there are 4 or 5 with real chances. I like Isio Madric in the cross country. He's going to be out of the handicap, but he's a fascinating horse with a bit of back class. Ile Francais, obviously, and one to him. There are others as well. David Cotton's got another couple. Big price handicap winners, Dave. That's what we get when we've got fair ground. I hate these Cheltenham festivals where it comes up heavy. You go on odds checking, you've got about 6 horses that can win, the rest can't. And you think, what am I doing here? Am I going to take a massive price about a horse that hates the ground, or am I going to say under the odds? We're going to have fair market, fair ground. It's going to be some big price winners and handicaps, I think.
Well, for me, it's Final Demand returning in triumph from the Albert Park. But above all, it's Paul Nichols walking in alongside Caldwell Potter.
You've missed Billy.
I'm going to bring Billy's ending.
Well, before we go to Billy, Matt's given me an idea, a new cup, a Waterloo Cup for Britain against France. Cheltenham Festival. One that we might just snag.
She's so, that gold tweet is in various entries. Is he going to turn up? Because he's got a mark.
Doesn't come up on. Read in the Racing Post.
That's a shame.
It's on the Racing Post on one shoes.
Right, I'm with the Brits then for the wash.
Oh, we're good. Get it. Billy, you can't win the Waterloo Cup. But what else are you looking at? What's going to be the Billy Nash headliners at Cheltenham?
Well, I really want to see Galopin Des Champs win a 3rd Gold Cup because I think, as I've said before, I think he's already deserves to be considered an all-time great. But if he'll need to win a 3rd Cheltenham Gold Cup to be considered that by the wider public, and so I hope that happens. Cheltenham for me is all about a really good Irish one taking on a really good British one, and hopefully we'll get the Final Demand v the New Lion mashup in the turners. There was going to be Sergino versus Madgebrain and 1 or 2 others that have fallen by the wayside, but I'd love to see Final Demand and the New Line go head-to-head in the turners.
Would you go under or over 17.5 Irish winners out of 28 races?
If you'd asked me about 3 weeks ago, I might have gone under, but the confidence is good.
25.
Yeah. Final question. I've got 50 of the King's pounds in my pocket. You've got to back a British horse at the fairs, Billy, now. Where's it going?
Constitution Hill.
Oh. My dear, he'll get it on the board for the Waterloo Cup and the Fresbury Cup. Time has beaten us. Thanks to GC, David, to Patrick, Ed, Billy and Matt, and best of luck. Looking forward to what should be a fantastic Cheltenham Festival. Can't wait for that to get underway now.
Free, unmissable content released daily. Available daily throughout the festival for free at sportinglife.com. With exclusive updates from Willie Mullins, replays of every race across the festival. Enhance your racing experience with advanced race cards powered by Timeform. Plus in-depth analysis and expert tips for every day of the festival, including our value bet price guarantee. Go for free today at sportinglife.com.